if we ever come up with the funds to like do something sick to this thing, we'll probably definitely do it. Like, not even joking, we want to throw a turbo kit on there, just make it super sleeper. But as of right now, we don't have the funds to do that. Goals are eventually, I don't know, just do something crazy with it.
What's up guys, my name is Kyle, and today we are taking on one of the biggest projects this channel has ever seen. As you guys know, I bought this Tesla Plaid a while back off of Copart, and you guys are probably wondering how it got put all back together. As you guys know, we cut this thing up and turned it into E-Roy. I'm actually filming this video before we even touched the Tesla Plaid here, because making E-Roy was just an idea we got halfway through before getting to the final result of what this project was supposed to be when I originally got the car. I had this idea about a year ago at the time of filming this current video. If you guys are watching this right now, then that means the project was somewhat successful or fully successful, and I am giving this to you all in one video, start to finish, from the time we started cutting this thing up to the time this thing is driving. So before we get too into it, I would just like to say I would really appreciate it if you guys watch it all the way through, and if you guys are feeling extra generous, you guys can grab something off of theboostedboiz.com to help support projects like this in the future. And now we are getting to the real reason why I bought the Tesla Plaid. If you guys look over here, this is my 2001 Honda Odyssey minivan. This thing has been on the channel since the very beginning. I bought this thing for 500 bucks back in Colorado, had a blown transmission, we fixed it up. This thing has been our parts runner. I've driven it from Colorado all the way out to Florida. It has 290,000 miles. The paint is fading. We were about to throw this thing away. We didn't know what we were gonna do with it. And then one night, when I was just looking up random facts online, I found out that the Tesla Plaid has a wheelbase of 116.5 inches. And the 01 Honda Odyssey here has a wheelbase of 118 inches. That is only a 3/4 inch difference in each of the wheel wells if we were to attempt a body swap. And then I instantly got the idea of making the ultimate sleeper. So what we're gonna do today, boys, is we're going to be taking the body off of my 2001 Honda Odyssey, cutting it off, cutting the body and all of the panels off of the Tesla, turning it into E-Roy, and then we are going to be merging the two together in a new project that I would like to call the Plaidacy.
So the plan is pretty straightforward, and on paper it should work. Since both of the widths and wheelbases of both the Odyssey and Tesla are so similar, we should be able to simply remove the body off of the Tesla, leaving behind the chassis and drivetrain. We can then take the body off of the Honda Odyssey and swap over the frame, doors, windshield, and rear hatch all onto the Tesla chassis. And boom, you get a 1,000 horsepower sleeper minivan. And I've done a ton of research, and this should work, but before I really dive into it, I want to make sure that it's going to be possible.
So before we start cutting up our very nice Tesla Plaid over there, I want to make sure this body swap is going to work in the first place at all, because the last thing I want to do is cut up that car and run into some sort of roadblock and we have just massacred this Tesla Plaid for no reason. As you guys know, we picked up this Model S right here. This one caught on fire. We used the parts off of this one to repair our Tesla Plaid when it was rear-ended. So we took the back hatch off of this thing and the bumper, and we got ours looking real nice. So what we're gonna do is start pulling this thing apart right here. It still has a good chassis, and we will be able to determine if this body swap will even be possible. So we got the minivan parked next to it right here. We're gonna go ahead and pull off the front bumper support, the front fenders. We're gonna start with swapping the front end over, kind of hanging up the fenders and bumper in place and see where everything lines up, and just kind of go from there. I don't want to get too into the nitty gritty, but I have done a ton of research. A ton of measurements have been made on the van and the Tesla Plaid. I got a whole bunch of measurements on a Tesla Plaid before I even bidded on this one on Copart, just because I was confident that this body swap was possible. But I was never 100% sure, and that's where having this donor car came in perfect for us. It fixed our Plaid, and now we get to cut this thing up. And if everything looks like it's going to line up onto this thing, we'll go ahead and start cutting the body off of the minivan, swapping it onto here to see what kind of challenges we're gonna have to face. And then once we get all of that worked out, we can send it and start cutting up the Tesla Plaid over there. All right, guys, we got the fenders, hood, and front bumper pulled off of the Odyssey. We also got the driver's side door pulled off just to kind of hang it up next to our test Model S here. And this is a very, very rough idea of where it would sit, but the van should be plenty wide to accommodate everything we got going on inside of the Tesla there. So we got the fender centered where it needs to be, and then we got the door kind of resting on this battery right here, and that's mocked up roughly where it's going to be. So you're going to see that the roof will be a lot higher than where it used to be on the Model S, and also the windshield is going to be pushed forward quite a bit because it would be like right in this area coming from the Odyssey. So a big concern I had before we even bought the Tesla Plaid that we have in the shop there was where this door sits in reference to the front wheel. So this was a concern I had. I figured I was just gonna try to work around it and pull the trigger on the project regardless, but this is the biggest kind of inconvenience that I've found so far. Obviously we might find more getting into it, but if you look at the door, it's sitting about 6 inches further than the Model S door would have. A lot of that has to do with this gap right here on the fender. So because of the wheelbases being very similar, we don't have much room to, move stuff around. The body panels are gonna need to go where they need to go in reference to each other, because it's gonna start to look wonky and then our tires won't line up anymore. So if you look at a Model S bumper, you can see right after the front tire ends in this wheel well right here, this is roughly 6 inches right here. Whereas on the minivan, we only have about a couple inches before the front of the door starts. Now both doors off both the Odyssey and the Model S are exactly 43 inches long. So what that means is that this door is going to end a few inches shorter than the Model S one does. The issue with that is that this pillar right here where we need the door latch to go is going to be forward, and it's going to be a slight inconvenience getting in and out of the Plaid because of where this pillar is going to line up. My goal was to not cut out any of the structure from the minivan here. I wanted to be able to cut the body off from the bottom, and this would be basically like a big RC car body, and the doors would still latch to the B pillar there, and we didn't change any of that up because that's going to be tough to make it all fit again. So that is the slight issue that I knew we would run into, and a much better option than using a Model S to do this swap would to have been to use a Tesla Model X, and that's the SUV style one with the kind of gull wing doors. They do make a Plaid version of that makes the same amount of power as the Model S Plaid. The issue with that though is they're a lot harder to find, they're more expensive, and there's a lot less of them to just have laying around to test like the Model S. It is doable, and that's still something that's an option in the future as we continue to get into this. But if you look at the gap from the fender to the front edge of the door on the Model X, it's a lot smaller, the dash lines up better, and overall it's probably just going to be a better option since that model already has a higher roof to accommodate for higher seating position, just like how the minivan would have. But this is what we got, boys. So we're going to work with this stuff here. And if you see the door right here, if we remove this, the blue tape is about where the pillar would be. So you can see that it's not super ideal. So it does have a slight curvature to it. You can see the door panel right here. So the pillar actually follows this shape right here. And this isn't exactly perfect, but that's the rough idea of how you'd have to get in and out of the car, because you now have a pillar right here that is about 6 to 7 inches forward. And then you also have to keep in mind that this will no longer be here. This will be cut out and the roof will be higher up. So you can still get in and out, but it ain't ideal. This is all going to be blocked off. The back window is probably going to start like somewhere right here. It's basically like getting in a 25 cert roll cage race car. But I kept all this in mind before we pulled the trigger on it. I did extensive research, and I was like, you know what? It's a small price to pay to have a sleeper Honda Odyssey minivan. So I think we're going to continue to move forward with it. We're going to keep cutting this thing up, get all the doors off of it, and that's why I wanted the test Model S to make sure that this would even work. I'm still like 50-50 on the whole thing. There's a chance we still might try to find a Model X and do it to that, because I think it would work out a little bit better. It is a small inconvenience that I think we can work around, and we already have this one to test it on. We already have the Model S Plaid, and those are two really big steps. So we might end up just sticking it on the Model S and going from there. That was the original plan, but we won't know until we get this thing all the way cut up, get the van cut up, and see how it all lines up. All right, all the doors are off. We've been pulling this thing apart. Still have a huge mess from when it caught on fire, but it's time for the roof to come off. Got the old trusty saws off. All right, guys, we got the roof cut off of the Model S here. We are slowly getting this thing all cut up. I can already tell you guys right now, this project is going to be a ton of work. Definitely our biggest project by far, but we're slowly getting there. Got all the pieces over here slowly coming apart. And right now I'm working on getting the driver's side door mocked up even more. So our biggest concern is that B pillar from the Odyssey being too far forward, but this is about where everything is going to line up. I got the fender centered on the hub there. The height might be a little off, but it is centered where it needs to be. So the fender front to back is good. You can see that the van is almost the perfect width to go over everything. This actually might need to all scoot over just a touch to the right, but just for mock-up purposes, I'm focusing on this side right here. I don't think it's going to be too bad considering the seats right there. I mean, yeah, the pillar will be, you know, about right here, but that is doable. You will be able to get in right here. And now with this cut out of the way, this normally went right here. You can see how much more room you're gonna have to get in now that that support around the windshield isn't gonna be there. So ton of work, boys, but I'm gonna keep cutting away. We're losing daylight, but we have made a whole bunch of progress today on the prototype Plaid. So I've just been cutting small chunks out of this thing at a time, just learning all of the layers of this chassis, and I got a pretty good idea of how all of this goes together. And if you look right here in the front, you can see these 4 squares. They're part of this like aluminum beam that goes all the way back, and the top of it is completely flat, which I'm hoping will make building mounts or just attaching the van body nice and easy, because we can just kind of build off of that. One thing to note, this is an aluminum body car where the van is steel body, so we're gonna have to keep that in mind. We can't just weld it directly to this thing. The thought is to cut this all the way back. We're gonna remove that B pillar there, since the one off the van doesn't line up. That just has to go completely. And I'm also going to be cutting it right here, taking all of this out as well, because the Teslas have like a tub right here, at least on the Model S. So it actually has a drop down when you get into the car, whereas on the van, the bottom is completely flat. There's no sort of tub built into the floor there. So we're gonna be cutting all of this out and leave this nice flat surface all the way back. And then I'm probably gonna stop right here and then worry about getting the back quarter off later and just keep going from there. But that's all gonna have to go. And we'll probably do the same to the other side, obviously. Just keep chopping away, and slowly but surely, we'll get this thing ready to test fit an entire minivan body on top of. It's crazy to say, but I think it's gonna work. It's definitely possible. All right, boys, we're here at the junkyard. I love the junkyard. It's been a while since I've actually been out here, and this is the first time visiting the one local to us. This is the LKQ in Tampa, also called PYP, which stands for Pick Your Part. They have a whole bunch of stuff out here. Probably one of the largest pick and pulls near us. And we have ourselves another Honda Odyssey minivan right here. This is also a 2001, same year as the one I got. And the plan with this is to get this thing as a test van before we cut up my minivan and we're left with a project that won't even work, and we just have a mutilated minivan scattered everywhere. Just like how we got the Tesla Model S to test it on, we also wanted to pick up another test Odyssey just in case. So I actually came out here and I thought to myself, maybe there's a junkyard that has an Odyssey where the engine's already been pulled out and it's pretty gutted, and they'll just sell me the bare shell of the van and we don't have to tear into my minivan in case we hit a roadblock somewhere and we're just left with a torn up van. So they ended up having this one, and the timing was perfect. They were just getting ready to pull this thing out and actually have it crushed. The engine has already been pulled and we have just been slowly picking a couple more things off of it, and all we have to do right now is get the dash pulled out of this thing, because the way these places work, they're only really allowed to sell the parts off of the cars. They're not allowed to give you a title or sell a complete vehicle. So they're making an exception for us here. So huge shout out to the Tampa LKQ. And they're going to let us take the dash out and scratch the VIN off this thing. And they're going to sell this to us as like a cab off of a truck or something, like an off-frame kind of deal. Since these are a unibody car, you can't really separate them. So we just gotta get the dash pulled out of this thing. Everything we don't want, we're throwing away, and then we're gonna get this thing forklifted onto the trailer, and we'll have ourselves a van that we can start cutting up without messing up my minivan in case we find out something. And then we can use the parts off my minivan to rebuild this one and kind of go from there. But that's the plan. Get the dash out and we'll have ourselves a van to bring back to the house. Yeah, let's see if those gym training sessions paid off here. All right, guys, we got this thing pulled apart, and now we are getting her all loaded up. I really hope this works, guys. This is a ton of work, but if the Plaid turns out to be something awesome, then I'm not gonna complain. There she is, the future Plaid shell, or at least a test shell, but this one might turn into the actual Plaid. We'll see how it goes. And there she is. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, keep going.
There's the other jack. So we got this thing back from the junkyard. I've been working all day, working into the night here. You guys saw I got this front part cut off, still a lot to do there. And I've started to cut the floor out of this thing. So you can see my Sawzall line going all the way through there. That line's obviously gonna come closer this way, but right now I'm just going in between a big frame piece right here and then the frame piece on the outside. So I'm just going right through the thin sheet metal. There's a couple braces that I've had to go through, but cutting it a little farther on the inside is going really fast. So I got it cut all the way down. I got a hole right there just to kind of see where everything was at. So there's one of the main supports, and then there's another one right there. So I'm just going in between those guys to make it quick. And then I went up over this wheel arch here, and this whole back corner is now disconnected because that cut goes all the way through here. I had to open this up to get through this frame right here and cut all the way along the back. From this point out and around to about there on the front door is all the way cut off. And now I'm working on this side, and I just thought it was a good time to pause. I just got this piece of plastic ripped off and thought this was pretty cool. I never realized that the Odysseys had their own condenser and blower fan back here.
So I'm guessing it runs coolant all the way back here and AC lines for the central air system for everyone in the back seats. So that's pretty cool. And then we'll have to get to pulling the front apart and keep going from there, cut across the firewall. But I've been making some pretty good progress. I'm hoping by tomorrow we'll be able to test fit this thing onto the Model S over there. I still have to cut the other side of this off, but yeah, she's coming along.
So after a ton of cutting, I think the back part of this floor is just about ready to drop out of the van here. I am almost up to the firewall on both sides, and it is cut all the way back, all the way around. You can see it's separating right here on the wheel wells. It's actually starting to droop. So the outer part of the van right now is on jack stands. So if the floor were to be cut out, it should just drop out from under everything. So I am going to stand on this and give it a little persuasion and see if it will pop down. Might be a dumb idea, I don't know. I'm gonna see what happens. Oh yeah, she is loose. Look at that. Look at all this right here wiggling. Well, this floor still needs a little bit of convincing to come out, but it is close. You can see it is starting to droop out of there. It's starting to spill its guts out of the back. I'm just gonna go ahead and keep cutting some more near the front of the van, see what I need to do to cut across on the firewall. It's already getting pretty late, but I'm just dedicated to the Plaid right now, and I want to keep cutting, see if I can get the floor completely unattached, if you want to call it, from the van here. So I'm gonna keep going.
Well guys, the van body is officially separated from the floor. Stayed up late last night. My phone died, so I didn't film the separation, but got it cut all the way around, and we are good to try to remove the body off of the floor here. So we got an engine hoist on the back with some ratchet straps. We got the front jacked up, and we're just going to try to slide this over the floor. We also got the tubs cut out the rest of the way just because those would catch on the frame right there. So we're hoping we can just slide this thing out, and then we can cut up the floor and everything else we don't need, have a scrap guy come pick up all that junk, and then we'll have our body ready to go for the Plaid. Well guys, we got the van body on the lift, and we got the burnt Model S wheeled in here for mock-up purposes, and this is not going to be an easy body swap. There is going to be a lot of clearancing and just a ton of work to make this possible. So hopefully it pays off, because I've sacrificed a ton of my time and energy into this project, and I hope it works. Something I'm slightly concerned about is I mentioned how the pillar's not going to be in the right spot. We're still not in the final forward to backward position here, but that pillar is very inconvenient currently. It's like you're not even going to be able to get in the thing. So we'll have to see where everything's going to line up once we actually get it to set down. And then these are where the kind of sliders went for the sliding doors. There's a little wheel right here, and there's a rail that helps guide the sliding door in, and that's why it has these kind of bumps that stick out both sides of the van's frame right there and there, and those are also a major inconvenience. So I'm not sure if we're going to be able to retain the sliding doors of the van, which I wanted to do, or we might just have to re-engineer that a little bit later on. This is going to be a ton of work, so we're going to keep cutting away, see if we can somewhat make them fit together and go from there.
Definitely can't do that on our Tesla. This poor thing's seen enough fire damage. All right, maybe no more of that. We have just been going hard on the body swap here, and boys, I think it's gonna work. We got it lowered down. We still have to go about 5 more inches, but after a ton of cutting and finessing, this is where we are at currently. And I guess you could say at this point, the Plaid technically exists. You know, it's just not up and operational, but that is well, actually it's not a Plaid under there. So right now it's the Model S a C. It does exist and it fits, but we still have to come down about 5 more inches, and there's still a ton of things that need to get cut out of the way, but it looks like it's gonna be possible, boys. So let me show you where everything's at. So even though it looks like this tub only needs to come down a couple more inches, this actually needs to be up inside of the quarter here. On the Tesla, this actually curved down and it actually ended a few inches lower. So this needs to come down 5 inches along with everything else. You can see this needs to come all the way down. We're still floating a little bit, but yeah, boys, she is freaking on there. So all this is gonna come down. The shock tower is going to sit very close right there. You can see the driver's seat. So it's not gonna be too bad to get in and out of this thing. So you can see the pillar is right there in the inconvenient spot like we talked about, but it's not gonna be that bad. I was worried it was gonna be way up here, but that won't be bad to get in and out of the seat. The dash is going to be extremely long in this thing because we have about 8 more inches forward for where the windshield is going to be in comparison to where the Tesla windshield was, which was right here, and then that windshield's over there. So right now the line of sight is not great. You won't be able to see much, but once this comes down about 5 more inches, it's going to be about here in between these 2 bolt holes roughly, and then that'll be pretty good. We'll be able to see. Still not, you know, 100% perfect, but come on, it's a 2001 Odyssey going on a 2020 Plaid, or right now it's a Model S. Yeah, so we still have a ways to go. We found out that this box right here, this is kind of part of the side structure of the Tesla. This actually did not need to be cut all the way down. So what we're gonna do on the Plaid, hopefully this is the same structure. If not, we'll just have to keep this in mind, but this actually could have stayed all the way back because we have enough room to go around it here. Just something to note when we go to actually cut up our Tesla, that we can leave more of the structure in there than we thought. There she is, boys. The Plaid in her adolescent stages, and I think it's gonna work. Well, guys, we are almost there. The van body is down over the Model S. The back is about where it needs to be height-wise, but the front needs to come down probably about a good 1.5 inches still. This stuff right here in the front is probably gonna go in the future. I just left it on there just in case we could have built some sort of mount off the existing shock tower for the van body just to help bolt it down. I wanted to keep all this because it has a nice cowl that goes here, the plastic cowl with the windshield wiper motor, and we could, you know, make the windshield wipers work if all of this stayed. With this being so far forward, there's going to be some components that we're going to need to possibly work on the Tesla in the future. If we need to service some stuff, you won't be able to get to some of that. So luckily a lot of this can be cut away. This is about 7 inches here of sheet metal, and realistically it's probably all going to get cut back to the windshield here. Just not sure what we'll do about the wipers if we have to go that route, because there's also an air tank that sits right here for the air suspension, and this will be very close to that. If we have to service the shocks or something, obviously that's going to cover our access to those. So we have to think about being able to service the car just in case in the future as well. So I just want to leave that on there until the last final call, because once I cut this off, then it's not going back on. So we'll see if we can keep as much of that as possible. This is our difference in wheelbase right here. We have about 1.5 inches longer on the van, and since we centered everything up off of the front, we're sacrificing that 1.5 inches of wheelbase roughly back here. So you can see this is where the arch ends, and then that's the arch for the van. So not too bad. And then the front of it goes a little past, but we have plenty of room up in the tubs. The van's also not as wide as the Tesla, so if we try to run the big Pilot Sports that are on there right now, they're gonna poke out a little bit. We'll probably have to resize the wheels and tires, obviously. Let me show you guys the inside view real quick. So keep in mind, this is gonna come down a little bit more in the front, but it's not looking too bad. So my worry was visibility out of the windshield. I'm hoping to get this another 1.5 inches or so down. This little lip right here will be flush with the edge of the dash, so it'll come down quite a ways. But I mean, realistically, it's hard to tell because we're inside a shop. The windshield's cracked. You should be able to drive this thing no problem. If I lean forward, I'll be able to look over the hood. Like, we should be good to go. It's gonna be a little weird to drive, but I mean, it's not that bad. I can still reach everything. Get our sunglasses out of there. You know the deal. They had all these freaking push pins holding the headliner up. We'll have to change that. Freaking Plaid, boys. It is almost done getting through the prototype stage. Got some more notching to do. We'll bring the front down, and then that's that. I think then we'll get the body off of this thing, start cleaning it up, set it aside, and when the time comes, boys, we're gonna be cutting up the Plaid and doing the body swap because I think it's go time. I can say at this point that it is possible, so I think we're good. Well, guys, that's all that's left of the Odyssey and the remaining bits off of the Plaid and Model S. Our scrap metal guy came to pick it all up. We just cut the floor in half of the van. We also have the blown up J-Series, some other junk we needed to get rid of. And off it goes. Yep. Thanks, guys. Well, boys, it is finally freaking time, and I'm so excited. This thing has been sitting for months. Went ahead and blew all the leaves off of it. It's just been sitting right here in the corner. I've done my best to avoid this thing in the background in videos. This is the project I've been working on in secret for all these months, and hopefully it all comes together today. We're gonna start by getting this thing back in the shop. We have a ton of cleanup to do on the van body here, and you can see our freaking poor dollies that have been sitting under there for months have completely collapsed. I mean, that Tesla under there, even without the motor or batteries, it's still pretty heavy. We just have the front motor on it still, but had to get some new dollies in there. And I'm gonna be really glad to get rid of this old burnt up Tesla, throw that thing away. We can finally get our little spot back here. But yeah, Wyatt got the John Deere fired up over there, and we're gonna go ahead and pull it all into the shop and see if this thing fits on the real Tesla. See if the old John Deere's strong enough. Oh, go easy on those dollies, dude. Slow her down. Those dollies are hating their life right now. Fun fact, I probably had to buy about 10 dollies for this project alone because this thing is still very heavy and they collapse every now and then. Well, guys, as much as I hate to say it, E-Roy is coming apart today. We had a ton of fun with this thing. There was some more stuff I wanted to do, but we really wanted to get the Plaid done by the end of the year, and we have some other stuff coming up, so we got to get this thing knocked out, and today E-Roy is going to be no more. And we still have the air suspension issue as of right now, so hopefully we get that fixed. I have that module on the way, so hopefully that takes care of the issue. But we're gonna go ahead and try to unbolt the cage off of E-Roy here. We made it to hopefully come off in one piece without having to cut everything, and we will have the exo cage laying around because maybe one day we'll pick up another one. Who knows?
No.
Or
it's for sale, marketplace. Bolts right on, any 20 to 23
I think all the way up to
Tesla
23.
Plaid deal. Some slight trimming required, but bolts right on. Super nice unit, all TIG welded by yours truly. It's perfect. Come get it.
So we're gonna go ahead and pull the cage off, and then we have to take the front end off, and then the hardest part is gonna be cutting the windshield off. Because once we do that, there's really no going back, even to E-Roy, unless we want to like try to redo all that, which we don't. So yeah, boys, this is it for E-Roy. It was a fun project, but it's time to turn into the Plaid. All right, guys, moment of truth. We had to do some trimming on the van body, but we're coming down onto the Plaid here with the Odyssey. We're gonna see how everything fits. We left the windshield on for right now. Obviously that's gonna go, but it is narrow enough that we can actually go around it, and the windshield's far back enough that it shouldn't be in the way because we have plenty of space inside the body of the van there. So we'll get to that later. Dude, the back's almost there. Guys, this thing is looking so sweet. We just got to come down a little bit more on the front and all the way around. But I mean, the body is resting on there under its own weight, and you know, we have a ton to do, but I want to back it out. The Plaid is real now. It exists. It's right here in front of us. Oh my gosh, this thing's gonna be so cool.
Tell you what, there's a lot better than the dollies.
I'm going straight. Yes.
What are you guys doing about the windshield?
Figure that out.
Well, the Tesla one's just getting cut out.
Oh, okay.
The body falls off.
Ay, yeah. You're so low.
I know, we're gonna have to put some taller seats in it. And once this windshield is out of the way from the Tesla, it really won't be bad getting in and out. Like I said, this pillar is a slight inconvenience. It'd be nice if it was like 6 inches further back. But once this is gone, getting in and out of the other one really wasn't too bad. I mean, I'll have all of this space right here. You can just kind of drop on in there. So, dude, it is so cool. This just was an idea I had a couple years ago, and now it's like almost a thing. It's pretty sick. Something like that. Dude, that lines up so good.
Not terrible.
That's not that bad. But because of the difference in wheelbase, this is going to be a 3/4 inch closer this way. And same with this one right here. They're both coming in a 3/4 of an inch to make up for the 1.5 inches of wheelbase difference. Does not even look that bad. I was worried this gap would look kind of big. Dude, it looks pretty sick. That is going to work, dude.
That's ridiculous.
That is going to work. And it looks so sick on the unplugged performance wheels too.
Right.
Those look good on there.
If we can get another inch lower and then set it on its, like set it on
Slam
frame
it?
with whatever,
Dude.
with whatever electrified garage, however they do it, that's gonna be sick, dude.
Windshield is finally coming out of E-Roy. I never want to see this freaking thing again. I hate that tool. So we still have the mirror up here that has a whole bunch of sensors inside of it. It has the camera up here. This is responsible for a lot of the autopilot features as well. We have some Bluetooth stuff that's plugged in up here as well that we learned is like for the keyless entry, things like that. So we had a whole harness going up to this guy that we have to get all disconnected, and then we can pull this thing out. There she is. Drop. No going back now. It's a done deal now.
You got a Tesla Roadster.
Yep.
Beat Elon to it. Crazy.
This poor Tesla, man. He is completely chopped. We went ahead and put the driver seat back in, the original one, and I got it all the way up because the seating position is going to need to be as high as possible once we're in the minivan. So
It's like a slingshot.
it looks like a slingshot,
Yeah.
like a Polaris.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we are almost there. Yeah, that's pretty low on there. We were able to keep the windshield wiper motor on there for right now. We got to make sure we have enough clearance up under here if we need to get to like this 12-volt battery or any of this stuff. So we are keeping that in mind. We might cut some access holes down in that cowling.
I'm gonna wait until there's absolutely no cars.
Guess we're going for the first drive down the road with the body not bolted on at all, just resting on here.
Bro, how bad's it gonna be when the body straight falls off?
Oh, she's not going nowhere. I jumped on it. It's wedged right now. We're just driving it around, checking the visibility out the windshield. It's really not too bad.
Not bad. We're limited to 15 though.
Yeah, it's because the hood's not latched. What's up, fellow Tesla owner? All right, we got cars coming. Guys, this thing's gonna work out so good. Look at that thing. All right, guys, we are getting ready to pull the Tesla under this thing for what may be the final time. We did a ton of trimming on the van body here. We've actually been working on this for nearly 4 days now. Getting everything right where we wanted it to sit has taken a ton of time, just going up and down with this thing, doing small little trims here and there. And we ended up getting the windshield pulled out of this thing. We took a lot of the metal that was up here for the factory minivan dash. We cut a lot of that out of the way. We cut holes through this right here just so we have access to some stuff that this will be covering. We should be good to go down for the final time here, and hopefully we can finally start making some mounts and get this thing bolted up to the Tesla.
This is beyond amazing. I'm ready to go to school in this bad boy. The fitment, look at the fitment. This is just unbelievable. Like, this is, Elon was doing it wrong, apparently. You need to hire some boys.
So all we need now is you to reset the world's quickest electric minivan record.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
I don't know, man.
You could be the fastest Tesla driver and the fastest Honda Odyssey driver.
It's a lot of pressure. I don't know. We'll see. Throw some doors on there and we'll see what
Bro,
happens.
his whole personality's changed since he reset the record in the Plaid or the Tesla deal.
That's
So
right. I'm trying to get myself a Tesla nowadays.
yeah, dude.
It's just
He
like,
went to Elon, asked for half price. So he said, once you're fastest Odyssey man, then maybe we'll talk.
that
So,
might be it. Maybe if I
yeah.
can do it in the van. I don't know. If we go over there with this, they might really do
Van
that
us for
cease and
life.
desist. That might be a thing for real.
We got this thing all the way lower down now. We found that couple inches to go even deeper. And so we got it a couple inches lower, and this thing looks so freaking good. Honestly, it's better than I imagined. I did a ton of research, like I said, before we even took this project on, but it actually fits so good. You guys can see up here all this stuff that we cut out just to make access for stuff up behind the minivan's dash. Like, we got that 12-volt battery tucked up in here, so if we need to get to that, we can still access stuff through these holes because the windshield will be right here. We're going to make a removable panel that will fit inside of the Tesla to connect this gap from the speaker right here where the dash of the Tesla ends, and we'll connect that up to here where the windshield starts on the van. And this will be removable. We'll probably make it black, flock it, or do something like that just to help it blend in. But we want that to be able to come out in case we need to get to anything back here. We got like a little water pump back here for cooling. This might be like for the cabin or for the battery. I'm not too sure. We have the brake booster right there. So if we need to, do brake fluid, that guy's in there. We got brake lines down there. So we need to try to get to all of this stuff. But that is where the body of the van is going to sit on the Tesla here. And we can still get to everything. Everything clears. We're still going to be able to put the front end without anything hitting. We're going to be able to probably leave most of this up here. And it's just freaking insane. Like, you guys look inside, it's really not even that bad. The windshield comes low enough because our big concern was not being able to see out of this thing very well with the visibility, with how far forward and the windshield being a little taller in the van. But we've actually sat in it and you can see out of it just like a normal car. It's really not too much further back than we thought it was going to be. This is also with the suspension set on low on the Tesla. So this is as far as the Tesla will drop, just driving it around day to day in low mode. And we still have some clearance here and we still have some clearance up front. It is tight. We might need to do some fender rolling and some stuff just to help it clear with this exact wheel and tire combo. But we want to be able to get this thing low. We want the body to be where it needs to be to make it comfortable, and just we're trying to balance everything, because another thing is when we put this thing into drag strip mode and put it into the cheetah stance, this right now would rub pretty good because it drops the front down a good couple inches. So we might have to do some stuff to help the wheels and tires clear. I mean, there's just so much to talk about. I could just keep going and going, but it's crazy how good this thing fits on there, guys. I mean, look at that. That looks so freaking sick. It was meant to be. The original plan was to use this minivan just as a mock-up van, and then we were going to use my van to actually do the final product, but we already have a ton of work and cutting and time into this that there's no reason why we can't just use this van that we got from the junkyard. So this will be the final shell going over the Tesla. And yeah, that's where we're at right now, boys. We got to start making some mounts, get this thing actually attached to the Tesla, and just keep going from there. And then we can start putting the van back together, get it looking like a minivan again from the outside, and the Plaid will be a reality. All right, guys, we got the Plaid off of the lift and got the front end put on this thing. It just keeps getting better and better. It is looking so freaking sweet. I just really can't believe it keeps fitting so good. So front end is on there. There's almost nothing hitting up here, which is awesome. We might have to do a little trimming with this plastic support, but that shouldn't be too big of a deal. We can just make like a tubular front end to help support all of this stuff. The main reason we got it pulled off of the lift is so we could test fit a couple doors. So these were the doors that came with the van when we got it from the junkyard. And we want to make sure that the body hasn't twisted or tweaked too much after we set it in place here, because when most people do a body swap, when you cut the body off of the car, they will reinforce it with like rebar and steel tubing before they make all those cuts, because once you cut the floor out of them, they lose almost all of their rigidity and structure, and it's just kind of flimsy. We did not do that. This is our first body swap. We just kind of sent it. So we are double checking everything to make sure that the doors are fitting properly. We don't have any weird body lines or gaps, and we want to make sure everything is happy where it is sitting. And we triple checked everything, and this is the final resting position of the van body. So right now we are not touching it. This is where the suspension on the Tesla will sit at max low. Everything is looking really good right now. So what I'm doing right now is getting some brackets made so we can actually bolt this thing down to the Tesla chassis. So if you look right on this side, I got this piece of 3-inch angle iron, almost exactly how we did the cage when we turned it into E-Roy. Since this is a steel body going onto an aluminum chassis, we can't just weld this thing straight down, which makes it a little harder than normal. So we have to make a ton of brackets to hold this thing nice and secure onto the Tesla chassis. So this guy will go right down here like so. There was actually a couple factory bolt holes right here and here, and then these two guys that are pretty beefy, we'll probably add a couple more like nut certs or something like that, but it's really convenient that we have those to tie into. And then in the back, we got another little piece of angle, and this guy will go right back here like so. Probably do a couple nut certs back there just to get the body on the Tesla chassis for right now. And then we can actually go ahead and air this thing up and drive it around a little bit. It's gonna be on there secure, it's not gonna fall off. We obviously probably shouldn't rip on it so we don't tweak anything, but then we can move it around more, get it back on the lift, fully burn those mounts in, and we're going to be bracing it in a ton more locations. We're gonna add some supports up here in the front to keep this from wiggling side to side. We are also going to tie into the very back over here where the factory crash bars were, or the frame rails if you want to call them. We're going to run some 3-inch steel tubes into these guys and come all the way back and tie into the van back here. So we're gonna make sure she's tied in nice and strong, since we can't actually weld the body to the Tesla itself. We're just gonna have to add a ton of brackets, make sure it doesn't move or flex or go anywhere when we floor this thing, because it takes off hard, and the last thing we want to do is the freaking van body ripping off the Tesla chassis, because that would not be good. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the welder busted out and start TIG welding those in there, and then can actually bolt it down, air it up, and actually putz it around and not worry about the body coming off, and then it's on there where it's going to be. And then we can just keep going from there.
All right, so I went ahead and pulled the body back off of the Tesla just to get some final welding around those brackets that we added on. I didn't want any MIG spatter inside of the car, so that's why we TIG welded those inside the Tesla, pulled it in, got the body off, fully finished those out with the MIG welder. I also got these plates made to go right here to fill in these holes on both sides, because we can build off of that for the front end. But we got a couple more things to do, just some grinding and some cleanup, and we'll go ahead and lower the body back onto the Tesla, and we'll move on to doing some mounts in the front and back of the van. All right, guys, we got the body bolted back onto the Tesla here. Went ahead and got these front mounts made. These are just tacked on there for right now. They are going to a really thick piece of aluminum right there. Now the front is nice and solid. Before it was pretty wobbly, but we got the
mounts back on the pillars. Right now Wyatt's working on some rear mounts to tie in to the factory frame rails that we had down there. And right now we are gonna go ahead and start getting all of the doors on this thing just to do a final check. Everything is still movable at this point. Nothing has been permanently welded just yet, but we want to make sure that all of these components will go onto this thing without any issues. So we're going to go ahead and start putting all the doors on the van. All right, guys, we got most of the body panels back on the van. We have to get the front end done. The body is fully bolted and welded on. We still have to finish welding on some of these front mounts right here, but Wyatt just got finished up with these mounts in the back. So we just went ahead and plated the factory frame rails with an aluminum plate with a really thick piece of aluminum, and we tapped those, and then we bolted a steel plate to that, and then Wyatt just welded a 3x3 square tube off of that guy back to the back of the van here, and now the back of it is nice and stout. Everything is tied in.
She ain't going nowhere.
He's ready to rip, dude. And we went ahead and got the other seat in there, and we don't have a windshield or anything, and we're missing a window on the passenger door, but we're gonna go take this thing down the street.
We're gonna go do a launch. That's what we're gonna do.
We need to get that module in so the air suspension works, because we can't put it in any drag race mode or anything like that, but it still does work on Plaid mode, and we can still go up to 91 miles an hour. You know, it's really not too bad. We got that body sitting low.
As you sit up in your seat.
It ain't perfect, but it works.
You can see. I'll give it that.
We probably should have brought some glasses.
Just close your eyes.
You're gonna need some safety squints.
Yep.
Alright, we got the back hatch out too, so all that airflow coming in through the windshield just goes right through.
It's real nice.
And aerodynamic still. Alright. I'm gonna give her a little rip right here so that her eyes are ready to squint. We really need to get that module because it softens the suspension up so much that it squats like crazy.
That's so sketchy.
Dude, this thing's gonna be so sick though.
It's pretty wicked.
Oh, alright. Enough of that. I need to go get my hat. Go, everybody. Well, the body stayed on.
Don't know how, but it's there. I was really waiting for a door to just be gone, you know? The
Yeah, the rear
especially.
doors don't have much holding them on except
They're a little
the
sketchy.
latch themselves. But hey, we just got to get a front end on this thing, and it would be indistinguishable from any other minivan out on the road, except maybe the wheels and brake pads. All right, guys, so we got the body nice and secured onto the Tesla chassis, and now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the front end. As you guys saw, we did test fit everything on there, and everything does line up pretty good. We have tons of room up here, but now we're actually gonna go ahead and start building some brackets to hold everything on there permanently. We also added these plates on the end of the minivan's frame rails right here, so we can build off of those guys, and then we're gonna have to figure out a hood latch, all that good stuff. But we already know the front end fits really awesome on this thing. Now we just gotta make it all go on there for the final time. Put a back hatch on this thing, and we're gonna have ourselves a minivan. It's windshield time. Got our boy Van from VP Auto Glass coming through.
I'm back.
Got ourselves a fresh Odyssey windshield back here. Getting ready to go in so we can drive this thing with an actual windshield this time, not have all that wind blowing in our face.
Yep. Yo, what's that button do?
Chill. 1, 2, 3, yep. Just watch the top corner. That's it. And I got the rest.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna need you anymore. I can take you.
Then you just gonna go ahead and delete my number? Damn, Kyle, you nice.
Man, that's
All
clean.
right, boost the boy auto glass.
There's always something about getting a fresh windshield.
No better feeling.
It makes the rest of the van not look as terrible. Still not that pretty, but the windshield, very
Mint.
nice. Dude, it even comes with some tint on the top.
Shoo.
Keep that Florida sun out of there a little bit.
That cost extra.
Well, boys, after a idea that came to me about 2 years ago, several months of hard work, over $60,000 down the drain, invested into this Tesla, and then we put a $500 Odyssey shell on top of it. We have the Plaid. It looks so beautiful. So we do have some mismatched colored doors because we got some of those from the junkyard, but Wyatt just got the front end finished up. So we just have a couple more things to do. We got to get this grille fully mounted and a hood latch, but you got the headlights supported, the front bumper's on, everything fits freaking beautifully. We got the plastic cowling on right here, windshield wiper motor still in there, got the wiper blades on there. As you guys saw, we got a fresh windshield on this thing, and this thing just couldn't have turned out any better, guys. It looks so freaking sweet, and I'm just excited to go have a whole bunch of fun with this thing. We still have to figure out why the air suspension isn't working, so hopefully that module comes in and that fixes that, because we're still limited on speed, and obviously can't do too much with this if we can't go over 90 miles an hour. But I'm sure we'll get that sorted. But it's just crazy how good a 2001 Honda Odyssey fits on a 2022 Model S Plaid. Then also, I'm sure you guys saw in that windshield video, we had this aluminum piece connecting the dash to the front of the windshield there. Why I got that knocked out as well. We're probably going to just like flock that or paint it, make it match, but that actually fills in that space really nice. We do plan on putting the rest of the Tesla interior back in this thing, so we'll have the back seats one day. Right now the sliding doors don't work as well. They're just latched on there because we had to get rid of the bottom sliders, so we have to figure out a system to make the doors on the rear work once again. But we do plan on doing a whole bunch of stuff in the future and just kind of refining it, buttoning it up. There's still a ton of wiring that needs done. None of the headlights work, no turn signals, no nothing. We want to try to make all the windows work still. So we have a lot of content to still make with the Plaid, but I promised you guys that I would do this in one video, start to finish, running and driving. All we got to do now is drive it down the road.
All right, my dude, maiden voyage of the aesthetically complete Plaid.
Yeah, we've driven it a couple times, but now it is all the way together for the most part. We got a bungee on the hood just to keep that from flying open, because last thing we want is the hood to fly open, shatter our brand new windshield.
Yeah, dude, that shit's brighter than my future.
Yeah, that's a nice windshield right there.
Nothing better than some fresh glass.
Dude, you're
Definitely gonna need a secondary mount on that thing.
that thing's starting to come up already.
Yep.
We were worried
To be
about
fair, that thing's gotta restrict all the airflow coming through the grill, so.
When I get on it, that thing's gonna really come up.
Dude, it's so ridiculous. All-wheel drive, instant torque, reliable,
Just a minivan.
crazy.
All right, you ready?
Yep. Oh my god, dude. That felt like you did a wheelie.
It just looks like regular traffic.
Regular little van.
Yeah, we definitely have some things to button up, but hey, I said that this thing would run and drive by the end of this video. We got all the panels on this thing. They might not be the same color, but the
I think that
Plaid is
completes
here.
the look, man.
I mean, it just makes it
The
that much more
mismatch
sleeper.
is hilarious.
I know we haven't taken it to the drag strip yet, but I have a strong feeling if we fix that air suspension issue, that this would go faster than the Odyssey. And I feel like I can confidently say by doing this, we may have just built the fastest Honda Odyssey in the world. Might even one up the Odyssey, dude. We're gonna have to turn that thing up. We definitely need to get them both lined up.
Yeah.
EV
The
versus
problem with
giant
this thing,
turbo.
bro, is this thing just does it so effortlessly that I don't
Yeah.
think the Odyssey will ever compete with it.
Yeah, this can just go and go.
Yeah.
and
Back to
hopefully
back,
never break.
AC seats while doing it, like, it just doesn't care. Jesus, dude. That's
Alright.
nuts.
Freaking Odyssey, dude. So sick.
Pretty badass,
Alright.
man.
One little launch and then we're calling it.
All right. So ridiculous.
So
The
cool.
Plaid it's nuts.
Well, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm so freaking pumped on this thing. It's here. It's a reality. It's the Plaid. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you guys later.